because when you lose somebody that doesn't have a big following, it's just like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, all right, on to the next, or on to the next. But when you're on your way up and you hear that you're like, I think I'm going to move to LA. I'm like, I know what that means.
Yeah.
Because moving to LA was just going to be like, all right, I'm moving to LA. I'm out as soon as my contract's out. And like it goes on. You know what's crazy about that too, that I was thinking about is that the contracts has sort of removed the passion of being not completely, but being a part of a team. To give you an example, we didn't have any contracts at Optic up until like 2015. No contracts. Nobody had contracts. No Halo team. No nothing. Nobody had contracts. And that was because like everybody was there to make the house funnier. Everybody was there to make content and hopefully
a rising tide raises all ships.
Exactly. And we never had any agreements with anybody. I never had any agreements with anybody. No contracts with Scum, no contracts with Big Time, no contracts with anybody. And then eventually like I had to do that, but everybody like came together. Like you're 100 Thieves and I feel it. You know what I mean? Like you embody that team. Like that team is like your shit.
Yeah.
When I see other people that just get picked up by different orgs at different times, I'm always like, man, what is the end goal there, and how down is somebody going to be for that brand? If the brand gets attacked, is this person going to put their own personality in front of it to say, yo, this isn't how it's done, I'm going to use my platform to fucking defend this thing?
Yeah.
Which is something that we always held dear and near to our hearts with Optic, and little by little I started to see that we were sort of separating the cultures, or maybe it was a time that's long gone now.
Yeah.
Right. I always bring up the fact that I ran Optic for 7 years by myself, and everybody always says to me, it's like, oh, it's a different time now. Like there's a lot of money involved now. And I'm like, yeah, but you guys allowed it to get to that point. Like it was never like a mandatory thing that you had to raise money to go fucking do this, that, and the other. Like you could have just worked harder, gotten more views on your videos, and sponsorships happen.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it goes. From the sponsorship perspective, as an influencer for you, has that been a sort of defining vertical of your business that you always have to keep sort of separate from 100? Or do you have like, I mean, obviously not discussing specific details, but how do you navigate that?
I think that the big thing that I've found and has made me really successful in this is that so I work with Loaded, who's I've been with for over 2 years. They've always treated me very well, and I love working with them. They bring me opportunities that I wouldn't have, and I feel like always get me my proper value in the space. I think it's the reason why I was so excited and amped for, my YouTube opportunity that came up and different sponsorships that come up. We've been working with more and more blue chip brands and these big name companies. Yeah, I mean Pepsi and Mountain Dew and Game Fuel is just one example of them. But for me, I knew how important it was, and I don't think I would have known how important it was if I hadn't had my time on Optic, because you mentioned like those opportunities where things were coming up and it was like, oh, you can't really do that. And then I'm like, wait, but this one deal is worth more than my whole Optic sponsorship aside. And then it would free up the other categories for me to do stuff.
Yeah.
And so very early on, I think that 100 Thieves does a good job of realizing, like, listen, there's so much value you bring to us, and we have so many opportunities together, that it would be bad for you as a creator and would make you not want to be part of the brand.
Yeah.
If we are trying to be predatory in, because I feel like there's no other way to do that, is like when you have people that are signing that don't just know well enough and aren't given the advice that let's say you helped give me to like have proper representation and arm yourself with knowledge, because there's these companies that have this knowledge that then use that knowledge as like a flex on these kids that have a dream of being on these teams. Then they sign these really predatory contracts that then makes them lose millions of dollars across the next few years of their career. And we've already seen that ousted and exposed in these big time arguments back and forth and lawsuits with other teams without having to name any. But I knew going into 100 Thieves that wasn't something that was going to happen. And also 100 Thieves was very well understood that they don't want that either.
Yeah.
There isn't a world where 100 Thieves is going to get me the money that I'm getting from all of my major sponsors. So let's really focus on what we want to do together, which is what we have, and why I'm not out of 100 Thieves after a year and continue to be signed with them for, years to come.
Yeah.
I love my time here, and I love the working dynamic we have. From a sponsor standpoint, as you mentioned, like I come from a blue collar dad, who's been a plumber his whole life. My mom now works, thankfully, full time for Dunlop Enterprises. But
Love that.
My parents were never bred like we were never floating to the money. I learned as I got older that my dad saw me working hard at school and being a good kid and being polite to the neighbors and mowing lawns and trying to make money. But then I wanted a great baseball bat when I'm 12. He'd buy me the baseball bat, but then wouldn't tell me. And for 2 weeks, he'd be trying to figure out how he was going to make up for that lost $200 that I had no idea as a kid, because he would never show me just the joy that I had. So now at the age that I'm at, I view it as like, my dad's 59. I want to, if I'm able to use the platform I have now, and I'm not shilling out and selling these like terrible sponsors or terrible or things that I don't believe in.
Yeah.
There's obviously things that I have more love for than others, but I think I'm working with great brands that I would rep or easily work with. Even later, right after this, later today, I'm doing a sponsor stream with Rogue Company, which is like a great up and coming game that's led by Gandhi.
Yeah, Gandhi,
one of our great friends, and absolutely is a game that I want my audience to play and get into.
Yeah.
So if you're telling me that I have opportunities to work with these brands, and these deals are on even as consistent as weekly to a few times a week basis, to then be able to retire my dad early or take care of my family or utilize the fact that I have an incredible opportunity here to set my family up for not just my generation, but the next few. Yeah. I would be naive not to do that.
Yeah.
While the iron's hot.
What's crazy about that is that I think now more than ever, there's going to be this massive shift in the way that organizations operate, where if there's a category that's hasn't been filled and somebody has an opportunity to get it, like there isn't going to be that selfish. Let's try to turn that into a team deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like the old school days where every fucking penny counted. Now there's so many people coming to the space trying to sort of work their way into the eyeballs of other people that it would be almost a disservice to oneself and to the org to miss out on a talent like you who's going to promote the brand and in turn help get those massive sponsorships. If we haven't sold PC and you have an opportunity to have PC, why would anybody get in the way of that? And then it generates this sort of barrier and conflict between the player and the org. It's so weird.
Like one of my favorite partnerships we have, and I think is a brilliant example of like the vision being successful, is we have the couragejd Shot show, which is obviously near and dear to our heart, has been phenomenal. I mean, you were on Selfmade. I don't think you've been on the couragejd Shot show.
No,
yet,
never been invited.
We definitely need to have you on. So I think we blame Jackson, Alex, 100 Thieves production in general. I'm going to blame John Robinson.
Oh,
I don't think he has anything to do with it. I don't think he's ever helped secure. That's not his part of the company. But blaming John Robinson. But what I love about that partnership is I'm excited for it. Obviously, I rep and I'm excited for 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves has a huge major deal with someone like Cash App, Cash App Compound. But then an opportunity comes up for them to sponsor our show. And guess what? Now I'm working with a great brand like Cash App. 100 Thieves obviously gets great support from Cash App. And now we're at a point where I now have an extra income through there that I also put as like, hey, I have my 100 Thieves salary, but then I also have my bonus Cash App from Cash App for that. Yeah. And any other sponsors we bring on, which I'm already excited about the couragejd Shot show. It continues to be successful. We continue to bring on great, awesome guests. But there's also that extra, hey, look, you now have this much of an extra income through that with what you're doing with 100 Thieves. And it's not like I'm getting, oh, hey, Jack, here's an extra this. It's a handsome value that is like, wow, I want to bust my ass to continue to work hard for this so we can get even bigger deals and bigger sponsorship opportunities.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing is like, I think you and I are blessed with, and through our experience with very business-centric minds, there are many people in this industry, especially the up-and-coming players and people that just aren't and don't have the experience. It is invaluable to me, the fact that I was an unpaid intern, then a minimum wage intern, and then grew up in climbing the ranks at a Fortune 500 company, a top 100 company, an Activision Blizzard, know what a corporate environment is like, and now have the ability to understand these business decisions. But there's a lot of people out there that aren't, and you can like basically see how you can like point them out when you look at like the space.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, back to your point, like I almost think that the way that these deals will all be structured now is like, we want to bring in a big creator. Hey, we work with these companies and plan to, or this is what we want. we want to have you sign. We are going to sign you with none of those in, but then we'd also love to be able to offer you
the opportunity.
If we're going to work with Razer, for example, one of my proud sponsors, just re-signed with them for another year. So excited. If Razer wants to sponsor NRG, then hey, you want to sponsor us? We could also work to negotiate to add in this creator that's in our roster. But if they want to go out and be sold for other things, they can do that on their own. But hey, we're going to bring you this. This deal seems good. Now you're like, hey, this deal's good to me. This deal's good to you. Great. Boom. That's like how it's going to go. But it's not going to be like, hey, you're now blanketed under all of our stuff and get way too low, or don't get, now you're doing deliverables for free. I think that those times are done from here on out.
Yeah, I agree. So even back in the day when we didn't have any salaries, like I always dished out money from every single one of our sponsors, whether it's Loot Crate or this or whatever. Back in the day, like Nate got his cut. Then I would tier everything down. It's like, Nate is this, so that means that Seth is worth this, and blah, 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 tier it all the way down. And they live for free at their fucking house, for fucking sake. You know what I'm saying? Let me...